The life of a typical college student unfolds like a glossy brochure. Picturesque campus, hopeful freshmen, and the ever-swirling breeze of youthful dreams and potential romance. Meanwhile, Choi Chang-wook, a second-year returnee, trudges through it all with the enthusiasm of a man reading his own obituary. He firmly believes he's miles away from that picture-perfect campus life, mostly because he belongs to the engineering school, a place where individuality dies and everyone dresses like they've been copy-pasted from a tech startup's worst-dressed list. The air smells like burnt coffee and existential crisis, with a generous helping of cigarette smoke. Friendships here are more myth than reality. Personalities clash, interests diverge, and group chats die faster than group projects begin. As for the curriculum, it's a battlefield of impossible equations and soul-crushing lectures. Throw in the fact that the gender ratio is an awkward sausage fest, and it's not hard to see why Chang-wook feels like a monk trapped in a computer lab. He comes from an all-boys middle and high school background, a streak of estrogen-free education that continues right into college. After returning from military service instead of a fresh start, he lands back into this monochrome world. At this point, he's pretty sure the only women he'll ever interact with are the ones printed on his shampoo bottles. At the lecture hall, for general education, also known as the only building where the presence of females has been confirmed, Chang-wook sits alone, wearing a permanent frown like it's part of his uniform. Just a few rows down, a flock of eager guys trip over their words, offering their undying loyalty to one particular girl, promising to handle every speck of her research so she doesn't lift a delicate academic finger. The girl in question is Han Seola, aka the department's goddess. The first time Chang-wook got grouped with her on a project, he almost thought fate was finally cutting him some slack. That was 2 weeks ago. Alongside Seola was another female junior, Ha-yoon, and things looked promising. Seola, with a dazzling smile that could melt stress fractures, suggested Chang-wook be the group leader. His excitement lasted precisely 5 seconds. By week 2, reality hits harder than an overdue assignment. Seola effortlessly assigns herself the easiest task and proceeds to ghost the group with the professionalism of a seasoned magician. Every time there's work to do, she conjures up another excuse. Everything Seola conveniently skips doing ends up in the hands of her loyal legion of fanboys who currently buzz around her like interns around free pizza. Meanwhile, Chang-wook sits back, silently judging the absurdity of it all. 2 weeks, 2 whole weeks, and Seola hasn't so much as lifted a metaphorical finger. In stark contrast, Ha-yoon, the quieter member of their trio, not only does her part but wraps it up with neat formatting and footnotes that don't look like they were written during a caffeine-induced panic attack. When Chang-wook reviews Ha-yoon's report, he's genuinely impressed. It's well-researched, clear, and actually useful, a rare miracle in group projects. He tells her it's really good, and Ha-yoon gives him a timid thank you, barely audible, over the sound of Seola's entourage offering to carry her laptop, her bag, and possibly her will to study. Ha-yoon's shy and slightly nerdy demeanor makes the lack of attention from the others feel even more glaring. No one even spares her a glance. They're too busy orbiting planet Seola. Feeling like the last voice of reason in a world gone mad, Chang-wook finally reminds Seola to complete her share before their next class. She gives him a smile that promises nothing, and he braces himself for disappointment. Class proceeds, and as it wraps up, the lecturer announces that group leaders need to submit their presentation topics to the TAs before leaving. Chang-wook makes his way over and hands in the paperwork to a blonde TA. She looks up, blinks a few times, then removes her cap and glasses with a flare straight out of a K-drama reveal. Apparently, this is supposed to jog his memory. It works. Vaguely. He recognizes her as someone who once tried to strike up a conversation, mentioning they were in the same year. Her name comes back to him. Yumin. He blurts out that he didn't expect her to be a TA. She fires back that she's even more shocked to see him in a first-year class. He shrugs and admits it's because his grades took a nosedive. Just then, a group of junior guys pass by and greet Yumin with synchronized nods and voices loud enough to echo. She returns the greetings like a celebrity on a red carpet. Before their conversation can continue, another batch of students passes, offering more greetings. Chang-wook stares, trying to figure out when their school became a boot camp. Then it clicks. Of course people flock to Yumin. She's approachable, chill, and has that easygoing vibe. Yumin casually mentions that she noticed Chang-wook is grouped with Seola, adding with a smirk that he looks like someone about to step on a landmine. Chang-wook blinks, unsure what she means, but part of him senses it's probably not a compliment. It doesn't take long before enlightenment hits. Later that night, Seola drops a message in the group chat claiming she can't do her report because her computer suddenly decided to die, probably from overexposure to her avoidance. As expected, the Guy Brigade springs into action, falling over themselves to offer technical support, emotional support, and possibly moral support for her fictional laptop. By the next class, the reality of Yumin's words comes crashing down. Seola struts in, not only alive and well, but with her personal assignments perfectly printed and neatly stapled. Meanwhile, the guys, sleep-deprived and dark-eyed, have clearly sacrificed their night to finish the very report she bailed on. At the lecture center, the scene unfolds like a live reenactment of a tragicomedy. The guys swarm around Seola, cooing that she doesn't need to worry because they handled everything for her. Seola flashes them a dazzling smile like a benevolent queen receiving offerings. Chang-wook, standing nearby, frowns so hard it might become permanent. Hyun, sharp-eyed despite her shy nature, notices his expression and stiffens. Chang-wook, "Finally done with the circus," calls out Seola. He reminds her, bluntly, that because she didn't do her part, the rest had to pick up the slack. And here she is, turning in her own homework while acting like she's too fragile to lift a pen. For the group. He points out that had she simply completed her report, they could have moved on to making the PowerPoint and actually started preparing their presentation. Instead, she's done nothing, and he declares that if this continues, he'll have to remove her name from the project. Seola looks like she's been struck by lightning. And then, classic plot twist, she starts crying, loudly, tearfully declaring that she wants to do her part, and if Chang-wook really wants to take her name off, then so be it. The room shifts instantly. The guys, now seeing Chang-wook as the villain of the story, start scolding him as if he just kicked a puppy on campus. Trying to salvage both his dignity and the project timeline, Chang-wook proposes a final deadline. The presentation is in 2 classes. If Seola doesn't finish her part by the weekend, then her name comes off for real. Surprisingly, Seola stops, crying immediately and chirps that she'll definitely do it, complete with sparkles in her eyes. Chang-wook, mildly alarmed by how fast the switch flipped, decides to let her off this time. By Saturday evening, just when the tension in Chang-wook's chest begins to ease slightly, a message flashes in the group chat. It's from Seola. She writes that her grandfather has passed away and that she won't be able to work on her portion of the report. The moment his eyes land on the message, something inside him twists. His jaw tightens and his fingers hover above the screen, tempted to type out every single thought boiling in his head. But he stops himself. He knows the script. Say anything, now, and he's the heartless one, the guy who doesn't respect grief. So instead, he slumps back onto his bed, the weight of helplessness pressing hard against his chest. Frustration sits with him like an uninvited guest, growing louder by the second. The room feels smaller, the air is heavier. And just when it seems like the night will end in angry silence, his phone buzzes again. Min-tae's name lights up the screen. An old friend from high school, the kind who believes life's disasters can be drowned in cold beer. The offer for a drink hangs on the screen. At first, Chang-wook thinks about saying no. There's still the project, still the deadline, still the mess. But then her name floats back into his head. That report, that excuse, that message. His chest burns a little, and before he even knows it, his thumbs are typing out a yes. The night air hits him like a sigh of relief as he steps out. He meets up with Min-tae, and the two begin wandering the streets, footsteps light and conversation. Easy? Somewhere along the way, Min-tae suggests another round of drinks. They head down a street lined with glowing signs until they come to a quieter place with dim lights and a warm atmosphere. It looks less like a bar and more like a secret escape. As they step inside, a lady greets them with a practiced smile. The bar is softly lit, filled with young women dressed neatly, many of them seated beside men who look far too relaxed for the problems they probably carry. Min-tae casually informs him it's a talking bar, one of those places where the drinks are optional, but the conversation is part of the package. The staff takes a glance at the two of them, college stress written all over their faces, and gently suggests that there are female students available, offering to send some over. Just then, a girl sitting at the far end of the bar catches their attention. Surrounded by older men, she carries herself with ease, a practiced charm in every gesture. The staff mentions that the girl is very popular, a favorite among the regulars. And then, the moment spins. The girl turns her head, and it's Seola. Everything pauses. Changwook's breath catches in his throat. Across the room, her eyes widen, and she sits frozen as if her world also just tilted sideways. There's no mistaking the look of someone caught completely off guard. And all at once, the message about her grandfather's passing feels like a slap from a ghost that never existed. The funeral, the mourning, the excuse. It all collapses under the bright, ironic lights of the bar. Seola approaches the table where Changwook and Min-tae are seated. Her usual smile is in place, but her eyes flicker with something uncertain as she sets the drinks down. She quickly notices that Changwook hasn't spoken a word since they sat down. He just keeps sipping from his glass, one after the other, like each drink is helping him swallow the anger he doesn't know what to do with. There's a tension around him that doesn't match the relaxed hum of the bar. Her gaze lingers, suspicious, and a little uneasy as she tries to read what's going on in his head. Meanwhile, Changwook is stuck in a whirlwind of thoughts. He doesn't touch the bar snacks, doesn't make conversation, doesn't even register half of what Min-tae says. All he can think about is Seola. The gall of her sitting across the room hours after texting the group about her grandfather's funeral.
His mind spins with frustration, ideas, and possible confrontations. But in the middle of all that storm, he doesn't realize how many drinks he's downed until his phone buzzes. It's a call from home. Something about the familiar ringtone brings him back to earth. Changwook mumbles to Min-tae that he's going to step outside to take the call and clear his head a bit. He drags himself toward the restroom, hoping to splash some water on his face and gather his thoughts before doing something stupid. But the moment he steps inside, things take a sharp turn. A hand grabs the collar of his shirt and yanks him inside one of the toilet stalls. The door slams shut behind him, and before he can fully process what's happening, he finds himself staring at Seola in close quarters, her expression tense and frantic. She wastes no time. She demands to know if he's told anyone what he saw tonight. The irritation flickers back into Changwook's eyes. Her voice may be low, but the desperation in it only fuels his annoyance. He snaps back, pointing out the ridiculousness of it all. How the supposedly innocent, sweet-faced engineering student is actually moonlighting at a talking bar. Her image, all polished and perfect, now cracked wide open. Seola immediately tries to shift the mood. She backpedals, offering him a meal if he keeps quiet. A weak bribe. It only makes things worse. Changwook isn't playing along. He calls her out again, sharper this time. She counters by offering to finally do her part of the research. But that only makes him laugh dryly, shaking his head in disbelief. The presentation is in less than 2 days, and everyone else has already finished the part she left undone. Seola's voice softens. She starts explaining that she has her reasons, eyes wide, trying to appear vulnerable. But Changwook doesn't budge. His frustration boils over as he throws her excuses back in her face. She cried when she was cornered. She gave excuses when she was supposed to take responsibility. He was stupid enough to expect even the bare minimum, a simple apology. Meanwhile, the rest of their team is staying up all night, pulling her weight while still worrying about her. And here she is, hiding behind false tears, protecting her own image. Seola yells back, her voice suddenly sharp, claiming he's the worst for pressuring an underclassman just for missing a bit of work. But the fire in her tone dims quickly, replaced by fear. She pleads again, voice trembling now. If word about her job gets out, she says, she won't be able to show her face at school again. They eventually reach a quiet agreement inside the cramped restroom stall. Seola promises to handle her part of the group work properly from now on, while Changwook agrees to keep her secret tightly locked away. Come Monday, the group is gathered at a cozy cafe they frequent for their weekly meeting. The low hum of coffee machines and the scent of roasted beans fill the air. Changwook sits across from Seola and the other members, idly stirring his iced Americano while watching the scene unfold. The guys, as always, are quick to notice Sela's presence, and even quicker to praise her. They're genuinely surprised, almost as if they've spotted a unicorn, that she not only showed up but also submitted her part of the work on time. Chang-wook leans back in his chair, observing quietly. For once, Sela is early, engaged, and acting like a model student. He doesn't need a magic ball to figure out why. Her attendance and sudden diligence are less about group spirit and more about damage control. It's all written plainly on her face. She wants to protect her secret, and that means keeping him happy. He compliments her lightly, saying it's good she turned in her work, but then flips the script. His tone stays calm, but his words cut a little. There are plenty of mistakes in her report, and she needs to align her section with the others and make sure everything fits by tomorrow. The guys glance at each other, unease creeping in. They know Sela has a habit of vanishing when things get demanding. As expected, Sela plays her usual card, tilting her head and speaking with a pitiful voice, acting as if the deadline is just too much. She pouts slightly, adding a touch of drama, wondering aloud how she'll get everything done in such little time. But Chang-wook isn't buying it. He gives her a look, not harsh, but unmistakably pointed, like a silent nudge that says she knows why you need to do this. Sela picks up on the message immediately. Her demeanor shifts. She straightens up, clutches her arms for a bit of theatrical emphasis, and assures everyone she'll do it. The sudden switch in attitude makes the other members blink in confusion. One moment she's whining, the next she's determined. The performance is almost too quick. Chang-wook then turns his attention to Haeun's part of the project. He schemes through it and nods, clearly impressed. He says it looks perfect and casually adds that Haeun seems far more reliable than someone else. The indirect jab hangs in the air like a low buzz. Sela, catching every word, looks visibly tense. She knows it's not just a comparison. It's a warning. She clenches her hands a little under the table, likely thinking to herself that she just needs to push through, work harder, and keep her mouth shut if she wants her secret life to remain buried. The boys, still not in on the hidden tension, exchange glances. Something seems off. They can't help but wonder why Sela, normally so free-spirited, is suddenly listening to everything Chang-wook says like he's the group leader or worse, her parole officer. Unbeknownst to them all, someone else is listening too. A few tables behind them, Yumin sits with her drink, quietly observing the group. Her eyes flick toward Sela and then toward Chang-wook, the faintest hint of curiosity playing on her face. On campus, Chang-wook leans against a wall, a cigarette dangling from his fingers, his thoughts lingering on the difficulty of the class. The air is chilly, and the silence of the evening surrounds him. Just as he exhales a plume of smoke, he notices Yumin approaching. She remarks on the curious change in Sela's behavior, a topic that catches his attention more than he expects. Yumin's casual observation about the girls' rankings at school, a strange hierarchy defined not by looks or year, but by the status of their boyfriends, makes him pause. He listens intently as she explains Sela's position in this system, describing how older boys fawned over her from the moment she arrived, turning her into the goddess of the school. It seems that Sela has never really needed to pull her weight in group work. Her reputation and flirtations were enough to keep her ahead. Yumin's curiosity about Chang-wook's ability to make Sela so obedient only deepens as she talks. Chang-wook can't bring himself to mention the bar. Too much of a risk. But he offers a half-hearted explanation, suggesting it was his manliness that did the trick. Yumin bursts into laughter at his response, clearly not buying it. They move on to talk about Mincheol, who set up a fried chicken shop near the school. The conversation shifts from there, as Chang-wook grows increasingly aware of the strange, layered dynamics surrounding his classmates. After a brief exchange, Chang-wook says he needs to head out and work on his project. Before he leaves, Yumin remarks how nice it is to see an old, dependable classmate around. Someone who doesn't quite blend in with the crowd, but still feels familiar. Her words hang in the air as Chang-wook walks away, a quiet smile tugging at the corner of his lips, though it's unclear whether it's for her or just his own fleeting thoughts. Later, in the classroom, Chang-wook finds himself reflecting on the stark contrast between him and Yumin. While he has been skimming by, Yumin has been diligently studying. It's a small but significant realization. He wonders if she's depending on him now, whether his role here is truly something more than just being another face in the crowd. His phone buzzes, pulling him out of his thoughts. It's late, and with that reminder, he decides to leave. Stepping outside, he shivers as the cold air hits him. The campus is eerily quiet, the kind of stillness that feels both unsettling and peaceful. As he walks down the empty street, he catches a glimpse of Yumin passing by. For a brief moment, the thought of teasing her crosses his mind, maybe even giving her a small scare. But that thought quickly fades as something more practical takes over. He watches her walking alone, and the unease creeps up. It feels dangerous, the silence of the night and the empty streets, especially for someone walking by themselves. Without thinking much further, he decides to follow her, his steps quiet against the cold pavement, unsure of what exactly he's hoping to find. Chang-wook notices a couple of students walking toward him, and realizing the awkwardness of the moment, he quickly excuses himself and heads home. Once there, he starts searching frantically for his wallet, turning over every surface and rummaging through drawers. He even goes back to school to check the lecture room, but his wallet is nowhere to be found. As he searches, a thought crosses his mind. Maybe Yumin has taken it. After all, she's the last person he saw before losing it. A few days pass, and Yumin never calls him. He figures maybe she didn't even drop the wallet where she was.
Then one day, he sees her walking by, and to his surprise, 3 guys come up to greet her. She firmly tells them to stop, making it clear she isn't their friend. As she looks around, she glances over in his direction, claiming she thinks she's spotted someone she knows. Chang-wook, who has been hiding behind the guys like a ninja in plain sight, feels a bit embarrassed. Even though he hasn't gotten his wallet back, the thought of meeting her still makes him uncomfortable, and so he stays hidden, hoping she doesn't notice him. However, Seola spots him, and she wastes no time rushing over to him, calling out his name. Chang-wook is so lost in his thoughts that he doesn't notice her at first. She has to raise her voice and grab his hand to snap him out of it. At that moment, some students see them and wonder who Seola is talking to. Seola asks if he has checked his email about the assignment, to which Chang-wook replies he hasn't because he's been busy. Seola, a little sassy as always, reminds him that it's actually he who told her to hurry up and get it done. In return, Chang-wook teases her, pretending he's about to reveal one of her secrets. This makes Seola absolutely livid, and she slams her hand on the door, shouting that she clearly remembers paying the price, so he should just stop with the teasing. The students around them start whispering, watching the scene unfold. Great, now they're definitely the center of attention. After the little outburst, Seola hurries off, telling Chang-wook to check his email when he has the time. Chang-wook, noticing the growing chatter around him, quickly makes his exit, feeling like he needs to escape before things get any more awkward. However, he's later seen being bombarded by other members of the group, who ask him how he got so close to Seola, and even convinced her to do the assignment. Chang-wook feels a little uneasy under the sudden scrutiny, but tries to shrug it off, though it's clear he's not entirely comfortable with the attention. Guess they're not used to seeing him like this. Later, after class, Chang-wook is spotted by Yumin, who remarks that they haven't seen each other for a while. Chang-wook, feeling awkward and caught off guard, immediately decides it's time to take his leave. He claims he has work to do, hoping to make a quick exit. To his surprise, Yumin returns his wallet, and he pretends to be confused, asking how it ended up with her. Yumin is at Chang-wook's place, teasing him about how they're now partners in being exhibitionists. Chang-wook, clearly not enjoying the joke, snaps at her, telling her to stop doing that because it's too dangerous. Yumin, unfazed, asks if he knows why she's been acting that way on campus. She explains that it's hard to believe, but she went to an all-girls school, so she never really had a chance to talk to boys. When she came to the engineering school, she heard the rumors about how it was mostly filled with men. At first, it was unfamiliar, but she quickly found it fun. Talk about a dramatic change of scenery. Suddenly, Yumin realizes that they're going to be late for class, and they both rush out the door. No time for more deep conversation, just the chaos of student life. A few days later, Chang-wook walks through campus, reflecting on how things have returned to normal after some incidents. The team project he and Siola had clashed over ended successfully. Now, without any reason to interact, Siola has become just an existence out of his reach once again. He's back to his loner life, or so he thinks. But then, out of nowhere, he's smacked on the back. Turning around, he sees Yumin greeting him, and they continue their walk together. Chang-wook notices that her style seems to have changed, and he asks her if she's not feeling cold. Yumin, ever playful, jabs at him and asks if he's worried about her. He wants to say something, but before he can get the words out, she punches him to make him stop. Guess she's got a way of keeping him on his toes. Chang-wook notices the guys around them sneaking glances in their direction, and he starts to feel awkward. Realizing that walking with a pretty girl draws attention, he starts to think it's best to get away quickly. He comes up with an excuse about having a class and decides to run off. He feels it's probably better for both of them if they avoid any strange rumors that might start. Yeah, being seen with a girl like that could definitely lead to some wild speculation. To his surprise, Yumin starts running with him. She casually explains that the professor is always late, so it's fine for her to skip out of her own way. For a bit, Chang-wook tells her she doesn't need to follow him, but she doesn't seem to mind. She's already set on sticking with him. Classic Yumin, making her own rules. Meanwhile, the guys nearby start discussing whether Yumin and Chang-wook are actually that close. One of them can't help but wonder if they might be dating, but the others quickly dismiss the idea, saying it's not possible. Around the same time, Siola is spotted with the group. As usual, she catches their attention, and they all admire her from a distance. Seems like Siola is always the center of attention. Later, as the evening rolls in, Chang-wook finds himself in the lecture room, realizing that a lot of time has passed. He figures it's probably time to start packing up. Just as he's about to gather his things, he hears someone enter. He turns to find that it's Siola. She claims she's here to work on her assignment, casually telling him to mind his own business. Yet, instead of sitting at another seat, she proceeds to sit right beside him. Chang-wook finds it a bit weird, especially given how she always acts like she's in charge of everything around her. Well, this is going to be an interesting evening. Chang-wook and Siola are both seen working on their computers in the lecture room. Chang-wook, however, seems to be struggling to concentrate. He starts wondering if it's better for him to just leave. He gets up from his seat, preparing to walk out, but Siola stops him, handing him a canned drink. She asks if they can talk for a moment. Siola casually mentions that he seems to be doing well these days, having fun with a woman and all. Chang-wook wonders if she's talking about Yumin. She then says that she's been worried every day, fearing he might tell someone about her. Chang-wook, slightly irritated, reminds her that he's already promised to keep her secret. He asks her to wait a moment as he types something on his phone. Siola appears visibly nervous, which doesn't go unnoticed by him. He reassures her, telling her that he's not going to tell anyone, so she doesn't have to worry. Siola admits that it's exactly that. Every little thing he does makes her nervous. Chang-wook, trying to lighten the situation, asks her if she can't just quit the job, considering he doesn't have any proof anyway. Siola responds that she'll quit after next month. He then asks her why she keeps bothering him, to which she replies that she doesn't trust him. Chang-wook, now growing annoyed, retorts that maybe he should just meet her expectations and write it on a poster. He's about to leave the lecture room, fed up with the situation. But then, he hears Siola say that she'll do it one more time, and properly this time. It's like a never-ending loop, and Chang-wook wonders if he'll ever get a break from all this drama. Ha-yoon walks into the lecture room and approaches Chang-wook, seeking his advice on how to be more social and learn from him. She admits that it's a difficult challenge for her, and she's feeling a bit lost. She observes that Chang-wook seems to get along with everyone and is quite popular, which surprises him since he doesn't see himself that way. But Ha-yoon insists, mentioning that she's shy and introverted, and that even though there aren't many girls in the engineering school, she thought they would form a bond. Unfortunately, she finds that the girls mostly keep to themselves, playing solo. She goes on to talk about how pretty girls like Siola seem to have an easy time hanging out with boys, even if they don't interact much with other girls. But when it comes to Chang-wook, she notices something different. Siola, despite her usual aloofness, becomes more candid and comfortable around him, and the boys seem to talk about Chang-wook a lot. Ha-yoon even notices how Chang-wook and Yumin appear to have a close friendship. Hyun expresses her desire to get along with people like Changwook or Seola, wishing she could be more like them. However, Changwook, unable to stop his internal laughter, realizes that Hyun has a completely wrong impression of him as a popular, outgoing person. He tries to explain that he's not really the best person to give advice on this matter, but Hyun insists that he is always kind, even to someone like her, to which Changwook reassures her that there's nothing wrong with her,